Hello, and thank you for joining us again today. Today we're going to be reading The Boy Who Went to the North Wind. Once there was a poor woman who lived on a farm with her son. One day she was about to make dinner, and she discovered that the meal bin in the kitchen was empty. Giving her son a bowl, she asked him to go to the storage shed to fetch some more. As he was returning to the cottage with a bowl full of meal, the cold north wind whistled past him and sent every grain of it swirling into the air. Frustrated, the boy went back to the shed for more meal, and upon his return the same thing happened again. The north wind scattered it across the countryside. For a third time, the boy repeated the process, and for a third time he watched helplessly as the careless north wind blew away every bit of meal that he and his mother had left. "That's it," he said angrily. "Mother, that greedy north wind has taken our meal, and I intend to get it back." So off he went. The land where the north wind lives, with only enough pennies in his pocket for one night's lodging. On and on he walked, for it was a long journey from the farm to that cold and windy place. It was late the next day when the boy at last stood before the north wind. "Well," demanded the icy north wind, "what brings you to my domain?" Gusting winds nearly knocked the boy off his feet, but he stood firm. "My mother and I are very poor, sir," the boy shouted above the roaring of the north wind. "And yesterday you took from my bowl the last of our meal. I need you to give it back, please, or we will starve." "Meal?" the north wind said. "Impossible! That meal was scattered to the four corners of the earth. But if you are in such a bad way, maybe this will help." Suddenly, a tablecloth tumbled out of nowhere and was blown flapping against the boy. He grabbed it immediately to keep it from blowing away. "Take that tablecloth," the north wind said as gently as he could. "Spread it over an empty table, and when you say the words, 'Cloth, cloth, bring me a feast,' it will fill the table with all the food you can eat." The boy thanked the north wind, folded the cloth, and put it into the pocket of his ragged cloak, and started on his way back home. Soon it was dark, and because the boy had traveled so far and still had such a long way to go, he stopped for the night at an inn. Before going up to his room, the boy, who had not eaten for almost 2 days now, found an empty table by the fire in the dining room. "And would the young man like a bit of hot gruel before we close the kitchen for this evening?" the innkeeper asked the boy as he sat down. "Actually, I'd like to try out this gift I was given," the boy said, "if you don't mind." The innkeeper shrugged as he watched the boy take the cloth from his pocket and unfold it on the table. "Cloth, cloth, bring me a feast." To the amazement of the innkeeper and the boy, the table was instantly filled with a wonderful assortment of the most delicious-looking foods that either of them had ever seen. The boy immediately began to help himself to a leg of roasted chicken, a freshly baked roll, and a slice of hot apple pie. "I'll just get you a napkin," the innkeeper said as he ran to the kitchen to tell his wife what he had just seen. She happened to have been watching from the kitchen door, and had also seen the miracle with her own eyes. "Just think of the profits we could make with a cloth like that," said the greedy innkeeper. "And the work it would save me," his wife added, grinning back. Quietly they slipped into the kitchen and closed the door behind them. Later that night, when the inn was dark and quiet and the boy lay fast asleep in his room, a figure crept to his bedside. There, the boy's tattered cloak hung at the foot of the bed. The figure silently pulled the magic tablecloth from the cloak's pocket and replaced it with another cloth that looked exactly like it. Then the thief crept back out of the room. The next morning, the boy struck out eagerly, excited to show his mother the wonderful tablecloth. On and on he walked, traveling all day so he might make it home by dinner time. Sure enough, he arrived just as she was about to break her last crust of bread. "Mother," the boy cried excitedly, "you won't believe what I have brought. The north wind gave us this wonderful tablecloth that instantly serves the most glorious food." "I'll believe it when I see it," said his mother with a sigh. The boy pulled the cloth from his pocket and with a flourish and a snap spread it onto the table. "Cloth, cloth," he cried, "bring me a feast." But no food appeared, not even a crumb. "Just as I thought," his mother said. "Now, do you want half this crust of bread?" "Why, that north wind tricked me," the boy cried. "Tomorrow I'll go back there and tell him to forget the magic cloth and just give me back our meal. And that's just what he did. By the end of the next day, he stood once again before the bitter north wind. You again, howled the north wind. What now? The cloth, sir, the boy cried back. It doesn't work. So if I could just get our meal back, I'll be on my way. Your meal is halfway around the world, boy, the north wind roared. But, here, this should replace your loss. From behind a fir tree, a goat wafted through the air and landed before the boy. Quickly, he grabbed one of its horns to keep it from being taken away by another gust of wind. Say this to the goat. Goat, goat, make me some gold, the north wind said, and it will make you enough gold that you can buy all the meal you'll ever need. Maybe then, he added under his breath, you'll stop bothering me. The boy thanked the north wind, tied his belt around the goat's neck as a lead, and started on his way back home. By evening, he found himself once more at the inn where he had stayed on his last journey. We've built a room, the innkeeper said, but the goat will cost you extra. The boy, having no more money of his own, realized he could try out his latest gift. Goat, goat, give me some gold, he said, and instantly, beautiful gold coins spilled from the goat's mouth and clinked upon the inn floor. The boy scooped them up and offered 2 to the amazed innkeeper. Will this do? He asked. Speechless, the innkeeper could only nod as he led the boy and his goat to their room. Secretly, the innkeeper gave his wife a sly wink, which she returned with a knowing grin. Soon the boy was in bed and fast asleep, and once again a figure crept into his dark room, this time leading a goat. This goat looked so much like the boy's that they could have been twins. Quickly and quietly, the figure switched the goats, taking the boy's and leaving the other in its place. The boy was awake with the sun and wasted no time making the long trip home. Mother, cried the boy as he reached their cottage. Look what the north wind has given us! A magic goat! Said his mother doubtfully. It looks just like a regular goat to me. Just watch this, the boy said. Goat, goat, give me some gold. But nothing happened. The goat only shook its head and started to eat the tablecloth. Oh well, the mother said. What's another hungry mouth to feed? Tricked again, the boy cried. This goat is supposed to make gold coins. That's it. The north wind is going to make this right. The next day found the boy making the all too familiar journey north, which was just as long and just as hard as the other 2 had been. You again? The north wind roared, nearly blowing the boy over. Sorry, sir, the boy shouted as he struggled to hold on to his flapping cloak. But the goat stopped making gold. Now, about that meal? The meal is gone, bellowed the north wind. And I have given you my very best gifts. All I have left is this stick. Suddenly, a large stick came spitting out of the sky and smacked the boy on the shoulder. Quickly, he grabbed hold of it before it could follow his long-lost meal into the wind. Say this to the stick. Stick, stick, do your work, said the north wind, and it will do what it does best. Then, when you wish it to stop, say stick, stick, stop, and it will. Now, the north wind roared, goodbye. Grasping the final gift, the boy thanked the north wind and scurried back the way he had come. By nightfall, he was again at the inn. What? No luggage or livestock this evening? The innkeeper asked. The boy handed him one of the few coins that were left from when he and the magic goat had stayed at the inn. Just me and my stick, the boy replied. Follow me, the innkeeper said, looking at his wife with raised eyebrows as they passed. She merely shrugged. Later that night, when the inn was dark and quiet, the thieving figure once more stole into the boy's room, this time carrying a big stick that looked exactly like the boy's. The figure didn't know what magic a walking stick might hold, but if this boy had it, the thief thought it must be worth stealing. By this time, the boy had grown suspicious of the innkeeper, so instead of going to sleep, he shut his eyes and pretended to snore loudly. As the figure reached for the stick, leaning in the corner near the bed, the boy suddenly stopped and cried, Stick, stick, do your work! Immediately the stick swung in action, swatting the mysterious figure, which ran about the room, crying, Ouch! Ouch! Stop! The boy sat up in bed and saw the innkeeper being chased around and around by the stick. "Ow! Ow!" he whined. "Make it stop, and I'll give you back your tablecloth and the goat." At sunrise the next morning, the boy was on the road heading home. He had the magic tablecloth under his arm, the lead for the magic goat in one hand, and the magic stick in the other. His mother was amazed and delighted by the gifts he had brought, and for the rest of his days, when the boy felt the north wind whistle past him, he touched the brim of his hat as a way to say thank you for a table that was always full and a meal bin that was never empty. This story is called The Mice in Counsel. The mice had had enough. No matter where they went, whether searching for food or playing in the meadow, the cat was always a threat. It seemed it could be anywhere, silently hunting them, waiting to pounce. Something had to be done, and so a meeting was arranged. Late one night, in a corner of the barn, the anxious group was called to order. A number of suggestions were made as to how the mice could protect themselves from their enemy, the cat, but one by one, these ideas were rejected. Finally, a mouse who was known to everyone and well-respected stepped forward. "While foraging in the trash heap the other day, I found a wonderful treasure, and I realized that all our troubles could be over. For it is this thing that can protect us all from the sneaky cat." He held up a small brass bell. "All we need to do is tie this bell around the cat's neck, and its tinkling sound will alert us in plenty of time for us to run away." The other mice cheered. Everyone agreed that the problem was now solved. Everyone except a wise old mouse who had sat quietly listening. He cleared his throat and raised his paw to speak. "Friends, this does indeed sound like a wonderful plan, but I am afraid we may have overlooked one important question. Which one of us will bell the cat?" The old mouse sat back down, and the room fell into silence. No one knew what to say because they realized he was right. No one wanted to be the one to volunteer to tie the bell around the cat's neck and potentially lose their life. It is one thing to talk about a plan. It is quite another to carry it out. The last story for today is The Crow and the Pitcher. A very thirsty crow came upon a pitcher of water. Having looked far and wide for something to drink, the parched bird peered into the jug. "At last," she said, "a bit of water." But unfortunately for her, the vessel's narrow neck kept her from reaching the cool water at the bottom, no matter how hard she tried. Discouraged, but far from giving up on the possibility of quenching her thirst, she took a moment to think things over. "Aha!" she cried. "I have an idea." The crow began picking up nearby pebbles and dropping them into the pitcher. With every stone that plunked into the old jug, the water level was raised just a bit. Pebble by pebble, the clever bird kept raising the level of the water until at last a cool drink was within reach. "Ah," sighed the refreshed crow, "so it is true. Necessity is the mother of all invention." Now, a fun thing about that story is that may have very well been observed in the wild and then just written down, for it has been discovered that crows do in fact use tools. They have figured out how to pick things up with their beak and to move them around. I read a story recently where these crows had taken these really hard nuts and would drop them in the street at a busy intersection, semi-busy, but plenty of cars would come through, and so they would drop the nuts there and then wait for the cars to run them over, and then would go back in and pick up the nuts that were out of the shelves now. This is another example or potential example, and if you wanted to do some research, I'm sure there's plenty of examples online. I might try to find a link a little bit later. But yeah, crows do in fact use tools. Well, anyway, I thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you enjoyed the stories. Feel free to like, subscribe, share. If you want to check us out on Patreon, we have some posts that we put on there as well. And that helps us keep up with getting the books, writing on more books. I've got some of my own that are out right now. If you would like to look at those, I'll leave the comments below. Again, thank you so much for listening today, and have a great rest of your evening.